So what I would like you to do in these games is apply a lot of pressure to your opponents, because they don't check balance ranges, and when you apply a lot of pressure, they just wilt and they don't really have anything for you. They'll just let you run them over. What I've seen so far after only 5 or 10 minutes is that, every single time where you could have taken the, slightly too aggressive action or the slightly too passive option, you always chose the passive one, right? So that's probably something you have to work on. What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to review a student at NL25 Zoom. It's actually 1025, which changes the game a little bit. I know you guys love seeing high stakes poker content, 100, 200 and whatnot, but the thing is, a lot of you guys don't play those stakes for understandably. So we're going to review something a little bit lower today, and a lot of you guys are playing these games and you want to improve. And usually we've got a couple of the viewers who actually do play these games, and we'll see them hopefully play their hand very well. Or not, so actually they can learn something. So as you can see, one of our students was kind enough to send his 25 Zoom footage. On GG, obviously the rake is going to be on the higher side. I mean, it's low stakes poker, you're going to get raked a bunch. So also, instead of the small blind being 12.5 cents, it's only 10 cents. So for instance, in the small blind, you have a little bit less incentive to open raise because you're missing out on a tenth of a big blind. Now, is that going to make or break your career? No, but it does change the game a little bit. Anyway, let's have a look at the footage. I don't know how the people play here, but I assume that the games are going to be pretty soft. First, a little bit of advice I would give you as our hero. I would just click this button right here. You guys can see it. It's these 4 squares, which means that you actually tile tables, so there's no overlap. In my opinion, the overlap is really, difficult to deal with. So we're going to obviously only play open raise or fold, and 7s will be open raise. I like the 2.2x sizing. King Jack easy fold. We're seeing a lot of good pairs so far. Even though there's pre-flop rake, it does mean you 3-bet a little bit tighter, but I'm still not very interested in doing a lot of cold calling. We open ace queen, which is standard, and the button flats, and we see jack 7-6. This board is obviously good for us in the sense that we have the sets, we have the straight draws, we have the flush draws, we have the over pairs, but in position is going to have some of those things as well. He's going to have 6s and 7s and, hands like jack 10 suited and maybe even pocket jacks and hands like, ace 10 of clubs, whatnot. So this is a board which hits you quite a bit, but it hits him as well. So I would do a decent amount of checking given the fact that I'm out of position here. Pocket 9s, against pork cooked, so I kind of want you to fold just to give him the money because of that name. He 3-bets quite large. I would recommend the slightly smaller sizing. Obviously now you're getting worse odds to call, which means you can't do as much calling, right? So with the high rake against players who likely play low VPIP but don't 3-bet much, calling 3-bets very light out of position is not going to do very well. If they're much better, and actually realize that you can't 3-bet as much because of the rake structure, they will also 3-bet less, which means that you can call even less. So a big mistake that a lot of guys probably make is that they just call every single hand like 10s and down. You just can't do that. Even a hand like 9s. Now, 9s is one of those, it's not strong enough to 4-bet at a high frequency. It's too strong to fold at a high frequency. So calling, if anything, is the play. But remember, high rake against tight players. So with those parameters in mind, I think folding is actually probably the best play. Even though, if I play that hand in, let's say, a game where I pay half a big blind and rake, folding would be my least common option. It would be a majority call and maybe occasionally 4-bet. Now, jack 7-6, I mean, the queen is obviously probably the best card in the deck for us. It's unlikely that villain has a hand like queen 7, queen 6. So unless he has specifically queen jack or a check back set, let's say, we've got the hand virtually always. We've done a lot of checking. It's time to get value. There's a lot of draws out there to protect against as well. So I'd like to see you overbet this turn. Queen 4 suited. Normally it's a call with the high rake. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a fold. So I like the big bet with ace queen, but I think we can even go larger. I mean, there's so many draws out there. You're so happy with your value range right now. At the same time, you really want to charge your opponent. and obviously 3-betting with pocket kings. Jack 9 suited is a very playable hand. So your pure equity is not fantastic. I mean, it's good, it's not fantastic, but you just have a lot of playability because of the fact that your hand is suited as well as connected. Jack 7 suited, we can call as well as 3-bet. We do a bit of both. So obviously we'd have to look at our opponent, right? I mean, some opponents open 40% on the button, some guys open 57% on the button, right? You have to play a different strategy. Jack 7 suited, sometimes 3-bet, sometimes call. I would expect you to under 3-bet here, whereas if anything, you should over 3-bet. And with 5-4, against such nitty players, I'm very happily seeing a flop. At these stakes, you have to exploit people for being too loose, calling too many 3-bets with bad hands, making too many bad call downs, making fancy bluff raises with some kind of blockers is not the best play when it comes to making you money. Now, Jack 7 here, we definitely can fold with the gut shot on the backdoor flush draw. When we lead the river, this is going to be one of our few air hands, right? Like King High, Jack High. So this is a board we don't check raise very often because, I mean, we just don't have very much. We have hands like Ace 10, we have hands like Queen 10, King Jack. Those are pretty good. Obviously, King Jack is really good, but we don't have 10s, we don't have Queens, we don't have Aces, we don't have Ace King. We have a limited amount of hands like, you know, Queen 10 suited, if at all. So low frequency check raise here. And obviously easy fold. We only have a gut shot. And we even block some of the bluffs. Because, I mean, if he has a jack, he might just bluff himself. I saw this King 10 suited fold, or maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, King 10 suited, we can 3-bet here. I think folding is a little bit too tight. It's obviously going to be one of your weaker 3-betting hands. You're probably folding it's a 4-bet as well, especially if your opponents don't really 4-bet enough. But your hand is a winning 3-bet. I mean, if you fold, you lose, well, I guess 40% of a big blind, but by 3-betting, you lose a bit less. So that play is not going to make you rich, but I mean, a lot of plays that make you a tiny bit of money equate to you making a lot of money. Meanwhile, King 9 we can fold as well. A lot of good disciplined folds. We're actually playing in an anti-game here. I actually don't really know what's going on. I think this is a happy hour type of thing. So there's actually 10 big blinds in the pot. I didn't even see that. That's very, very interesting as to how to play the hand. There's going to probably be... but the hand gets played normally. Okay, so I've never thought about that format for a single second. So let me think a little bit. I think limping is going to be extremely important in this game. I mean, if you can enter the pot, if Mr. Holly can enter the pot for one big blind in a pot that's not going to be 12.4 big blinds, you really want to be in there. So a hand like Jack 9 suited, you have to be in this pot somehow. And Art Bill, I mean, him having a 20 BB stack when there's 11.4 bigs in there, he's got EV. I mean, he's risking 21 bigs to win almost half of it, or more than half of it. So Holly does raise. As I said, Art Bill should go absolutely mental here. And there's no way you should fold your Jack 9. It seems like you're trying to fast fold, and it seems like you're trying to look too much at your charts and not really thinking about the extra pot odds. So it seems like you're playing this game as kind of like a non-ante game, which is something that I would expect a lot of people to do. So, I mean, there's 10 big blinds out there. Go after them, right? Jack 9 suited is never, ever, ever a fold here. Everybody should be going crazy here. Good job by Mazik entering the pot. Obviously, he can be in there with deuce 3 offsuit, but he should be in there a lot. Meanwhile, I don't mind 3-betting pocket 8s. It's obviously going to be one of the weakest pairs you 3-bet. Jack 9 suited. I like the fact that he didn't fold. I think it's fine. I mean, I think folding is by far the worst option. Squeeze is probably not the best. I think calling is best. And here with pocket 8s against a large 4-bet by a 14 VPIP player, I think folding is best. I don't have a strong read on Taiwanese players, other than the fact that their flag looks like Mario. And it checks through here. I would expect us to be flat calling all of the pairs here for sure. You could turn this hand into a bluff if you wanted to. It's quite aggressive. Thing is, I don't think Art Bill has much when he checks back here with less than pot to go. So, but then again, it is a bit tricky to lead into people here. I wouldn't hate if you led third pot here, but I think that's a little bit too much. I mean, we've got 2 overcards and that's it. So 7-4-3 is obviously a good board for us. When we defend the big blind, we're going to have more low cards than he will open raise. So villain should be quite passive on a board like this. Now, some people even check their entire range. You don't have to do that necessarily, but you definitely can do a lot of betting. Against this min bet, you could raise this hand sometimes, but calling is definitely the standard play. The nice thing about a hand like Ace-4 is that you do a great job of unblocking hands like Jack-10 off that might just take a stab. Meanwhile, I really like the sizing by Art. Good sizing. He can even go smaller. Would be really fun. We'd have to think about it for a few hours, figuring out that 10 big blind anti-strategy. Queen-Jack suited is obviously super profitable to defend here. At the same time, you can also squeeze. You know, Wing Chong is from Malaysia. He called pretty quickly. He's got pretty loose VPIP considering these games. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little bit weaker and flats too much. So I really wouldn't mind if you ended up squeezing here. Now, if you had stats and you see, well, he plays 80% of his hands, obviously you would go ahead and squeeze, right? If it turns out he plays 20 VPIP, well, now it's much closer. Queen-6 suited is a loose open, but we can make it. 8-5 deuce is an interesting board. Villain is going to hit this board a little bit harder than we will. At the same time, you know, there's no straight out there. There's not many 2 pairs out there. You know, you've got like 8-5 and 5 deuce suited, but that's about it. He's got the sets. So it's not a great board for you, but it's not like a terrible board or anything. Queen Jack, kind of the same thing as last hand. When Anaheim checks here, unless he checks full range, I don't think he has much. When Wing Chong doesn't stab here, I think he doesn't have that many hands like pocket 7s anymore. So you could end up betting your 2 overcards here, you know, you have a bit of equity, you have full equity. If you always do that type of stuff, that's just too aggressive. But if you never do it, that's just not good either, right? And I would expect a lot of your opponents wouldn't really lead here with low equity hands. So what I would like you to do in these games is apply a lot of pressure to your opponents because they don't check balance ranges, and when you apply a lot of pressure, they just wilt and they don't really have anything for you. They'll just let you run them over. What I've seen so far after only 5 or 10 minutes is that, you know, every single time where you could have taken the, you know, slightly too aggressive action or the slightly too passive option, you know, you always chose the passive one, right? So that's probably something you have to work on. Ace Queen is going to be a 3-bet virtually always. Jack 6-4, it's kind of close, you know. This is a board if you put this in a solver, it won't tell you to c-bet like always, but it will tell you to c-bet a lot. So, you know, you can decide for yourself whether or not you want to c-bet range here or c-bet maybe like 60, 70, 80% of the time. Since your opponents don't really do much check raising, I would imagine you can get away with a bit more. I really don't mind this. If you have a check behind range, Queen 6 wouldn't be the worst one to do it with. And Anaheim bets, and, you know, check raise is a bit crazy, so just fold. And here with Queen 6 suited, this is a really nice bluff catching hand. Villain's bluffs will contain, you know, straightening cards like an 8, a 7, a 5, a 3, a deuce. You don't have any of those, right? Also, when you have the Queen of Diamonds in your hand, it's more likely Villain just floated some kind of, you know, Jack 9 or like Queen on his spades himself. So also you block Queen Jack, which is one of the better hands, you know, he will call the flop with. Whereas then like Ace Jack, he might have check raised with. So all in all, this hand is a really good hand to call with. You snap check back the river. I really don't like that. If you think he's crazy and you check behind, I don't hate it. But it seems like you're not even thinking about it, right? I mean, you've got a full house here. You have a full house. If Villain had a Jack or pocket 10s or 9s, he would probably lead river. So when you check here, he can definitely call you with a hand like pocket 5s, pocket 3s, ace high. So I would have definitely value bet this river, or at least thought about it. And obviously Villain's play is not very good, right? So the float on the flop is very loose. is not terrible, but it's very loose. And then on the river, I mean, he's got 1,000,001 jacks. He could lead himself. And then when he checks, he occasionally has a few as well. But he should just have led the river. So if he's got a hand like ace queen high, okay, maybe you want to check behind, or you want to check and just hope to beat a worse ace high or beat some kind of king 10 give up. But with queen high, you're not really going to win.